spring and summer of 2020, I created a new series of wall-hanging wood sculptures that I call the Ripples series. They consist of highly figured, turned maple elements that are dyed with various layers of wood dye, and then attached to darker backgrounds with stainless steel rods. I first got the idea for the series, or I guess not the idea, but the initial inspiration came about 4 years ago in 2016 during a class at Arrowmont School of Arts and Crafts in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And Arrowmont's a wonderful place. For those of you that haven't heard of it or haven't been there, I really encourage you to check it out. It's been instrumental to my development as an artist and craftsperson. And this particular 2-week-long class was taught by my mentor, Jacques Vessery, or a lot of us just call him Jack. So Jack Vessery and Nick Agar was the other teacher for the 2-week-long session. And so of course a lot of the class focused on some of the textures and painting and different things in their work. And one question that kept coming up a lot from both myself and a lot of the other students was, well, wow, where do you guys get the inspiration for some of this stuff? How do you get these ideas? And part of what they taught us during those 2 weeks was how inspiration's just all around you. It's every day when you're walking around, there's texture inspiration for the taking. So to illustrate that point, in the weekend between the 2 weeks of this class, we took a little field trip to the nearby Great Smoky Mountains National Park and came upon a little historic site that was an old cabin, and just spent a couple hours taking texture inspiration photos. The cabin itself was full of interesting textures. You have this like gnarled old weathered wood and some of the stonework with moss on it. And of course a lot of us took pictures of the more typical things that you see in wood art, like leaf motifs and so on and so forth. But what really fascinated me was the creek bed behind the cabin. There was this little, bubbling creek with crystal clear waters and just, the sunlight shining down through the dense forest of the Smoky Mountains. And, like I said, the sunlight just kind of shined through and created this interplay of light on the creek bed. And I was just fascinated by this. I had an older phone at the time that didn't have nearly as much memory. And I sat there taking video and nearly filled up the memory of that phone. I had to go through and kind of delete and just save my favorites later so that I'd have some room left to take pictures of the rest of the class. But we got back to class and kind of had a discussion about the things everybody had seen, and Jack said representing water in wood art is one of the most difficult things there is. And he wasn't lying. They're two very different things. Wood's opaque obviously and water's transparent, and so I never wanted to back away from a challenge, but at the time the idea was just so big that I had to file it away for a while. So fast forward to 2020, when, like I said, I had this opportunity to have a major display in a very good gallery here in the Denver area, Valkyrie Gallery again. And I was trying to come up with ideas of what I do, and this idea of somehow representing water and wood art came back to me, and I got to thinking about it, and also leading up to this, I'd done a lot of work with my what I call my very originally call my blue rim bowls, that are curly maple bowls with a dyed blue rim, and it kind of suddenly came to me one day that that's the answer right there. That the ripple that you see in curly maple and the blue dye that I'd been using, that those two things right there are well on their way to being a representation of water and wood art. So I very quickly sketched this out on my phone. I do a lot of sketches on my phone these days. I have one of the phones that has the little pen that comes out, and at first I thought I wouldn't use that at all, but it's been so useful, and that's where the initial really quick sketch of this came out. And it's kind of interesting to look at now and see that originally my idea for the series was reversed a little bit, that the background was going to be the curly maple and the representation of water, and it was going to have darker cherry wood elements on top of it that were going to be painted with blue and green milk paint, which is another thing I've been working with a lot lately in my elegant Americana bowls and my cocktail muddlers. So I have experience with both of those things, with both the dye and the milk paint. But as I went on and designed the series, it became obvious to me that the little droplets of the Ripples series, that they should be the figured maple, you know, because they themselves are the representation of, you know, drops of water in a pond. You know, the other thematic inspiration for the Ripples series is there's this old quote that goes something along the lines of, you know, the work of a teacher is like ripples radiating out from drops of water in a pond, that they go on forever and you never know what the impact will be. And without taking anything away from teachers at all, I think that idea applies to us all. And that, you know, the acts of kindness that we do, hopefully to one another, that the ripples will kind of radiate out from forever, and we're always influencing each other in those ways. So Ripples in a way is also a celebration of that, of the human condition, of us influencing each other in those ways. And so yeah, that's a little bit about the inspiration and the theme of this series. I'm thrilled with how it turned out, and I hope you've been enjoying following along and learning a little bit more about it.